Mayor Pro Tem Alan Godhealth,
Present.
Councilmember Brendan Elwood, Councilmember Mark Jocelyn,
Present.
Councilmember Heather Cullen,
Here.
Councilmember Christina Restic,
Present.
Councilmember Susan Torgerson,
Here.
Councilmember Errol Tremolata.
Here.
All are present, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. Will you please lead us in the flag salute?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome on this blustery night if you're Winnie the Pooh. We will now move on to the consent agenda. We have 6 items on our consent agenda. Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Okay, motion by Mr. Godhealth and seconded by Mr. Who is that over there? Okay, raise your hand. That guy in the corner, Brendan Elwood. Glad to see you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Before we move on to citizens' comments, as indicated on tonight's agenda, if you are attending remotely and would like to submit public comment, please submit your written comments via in-person drop-off, mail, fax, email to sopadal@northbenoit.gov by 5 p.m. on the day of the meeting. We are no longer taking public comments for those attending remotely via Zoom unless they have reached out to the city clerk in advance of the meeting to request accommodations. We will now move on to citizen comments. At this time, if you would like to make a comment on an item that is not on our agenda tonight, we would invite you to come forward to the podium. If you have requested accommodation with the city clerk and wish to speak during citizen comments, please raise your hand through the virtual platform and we will take your comments after in-person comments. Let's see, please remember to state your name. You have 3 minutes for the record, your address as well, and you have 3 minutes to speak. I don't see anybody tonight. Not a soul. Okay, let's see, please. Okay, we'll move on. So now we're jumping forward.
They're not rushing the podium.
I can't see anybody. I'm going to give another sec. That's not going to happen, sadly. We will now move on to commission and committee reports. Let's go with Mr. Mark Jocelyn, Community and Economic Development, please.
Community and Economic Development Committee met earlier today. We discussed a couple things, the RFP that will be going forward to get someone to come forward with a development plan, or, you know, to work with the city towards development for 230 Main Street. And then we reviewed the utilities element of the comprehensive plan. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jocelyn. And Mr. Elwood, would you like to inform us about finance and administration, please?
Absolutely.
Terrific.
Finance and Administration Committee met on May 14th at 4 p.m. in the council's the adjournment room to my left. We had a few items on there. One was an informational Washington State Auditor 2021 and 22 annual reports audit and S&P Global City Ratings discussion. Another informational city 2025-2026 budget development status, and another informational selected U.S. economic metrics, where our finance director walked us through some great stats across the U.S. Our next meeting will be June 11th at 4 p.m. in the room to my left. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. The Public Health and Safety Committee met May 7th at 4 o'clock in the City Hall adjournment room. We had an update on wildfire preparedness from the Deputy Chief for the fire, that he talked about hiring in preparation for wildfire season and things that they're doing and working to try and help mitigate the high fire season. We also received an update from Police Chief Lynch with regard to their audit, their LEMAP audit that was underway as of that day, May 7th. And that he's looking forward to the outcome of that. And then finally, we had an initial presentation of the ordinance adopting the misuse of 911 calls. And that was it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rustick. And Ms. Colin, could you provide the report for Transportation and Public Works?
On April 30th at 4 o'clock in the adjournment room, we talked about the motion authorizing a purchase order for the variable message board sign, which is on our consent agenda tonight. We talked about a resolution accepting the TIB Early Opportunity Complete Streets Program funding for the 2024 Sidewalk Gaps Project and improving use of local funds as match from transportation. We talked about a motion authorizing entering design service contract with PH Consulting for the SR 202 Sidewalk Gap Project. We talked about a motion authorizing design contract with Northwest Railway Museum for the City of North Bend Railway Crossing projects. We talked about motion authorizing amendment number 4 to professional services contract with Perteet for storm drainage and flood. We talked about a motion authorizing payment to SPU for membership in the Saving Water Partnership. We talked about a motion authorizing contract with West Coast Signal for the light pole replacement at the Dahlgren Roundabout. And we introduced the city's draft for the 2025-2030 6-year transportation improvement plan. And that is it.
Thank you, Ms. Colon, and Mr. Gottel. Would you like to provide the report for work study?
Yes, we had a rousing work study, April 23rd, 2024 in the adjournment room. We talked about fiscal sustainability alternative 2. We already talked about one. And then we had a rousing discussion about North Bend Way Complete Streets Corridor Plan. And then we adjourned.
Okay.
I'm gonna move on to,
Would you like to?
yes.
Eastside Fire and Rescue.
Eastside Fire and Rescue met May 9th, 2024 at the headquarters. The only regular business on the item was a discussion of the fact discussion. Probably important for Martin to know. We're going to start looking at the finances into our next biennium. And we are going to be calling the fact, which includes staff to join us. And they will provide lunch for that. So hopefully we'll get you up to date with that. And then we did have an executive session to discuss collective bargaining with employee organizations, including contract negotiations, grievance of meetings, and discussion relating to the interpretation or application of agreement. The fire chief at his briefing, and in his briefing, he discussed that the Bothell City of Bothell has expressed perfect appreciation for our proposal, but has chose to go another way. City of Duval, last week's regular board meeting provided a brief update on the subcommittee discussion regarding the contract for services and shared the goal of having a draft contract ready to review by their June 14th meeting. Once that's reviewed, it'll be brought before the board. City of Issaquah and EFR staff have began to work together to move forward the discussion on replacing the aging station in Issaquah, Station 71. If you've ever seen that, that's kind of off of Newport Way there. It's been there. It's right next to their city hall. On Monday, May 13th, EFR presented data on proposed locations to insist in that location. We had several people get promoted or do the testing for promotion to engineer, and will officially celebrate their accomplishments at our June board meeting. On May 1st and 2nd, EFR, along with Department of Health and Department of Ecology and City of Issaquah and Farallon, participated in a virtual in-public meeting. These meetings are part of the formal cleanup process, and both went very well. Public comment runs through April 22nd to June 6th. This is about the removing the PFAS in various locations in Issaquah, including the headquarters. It's under MOTCA, so we have to, before we put together how we're going to clean up, there is public comment on that process. The King County EMS levy planning is in full swing. EFR has a representative at all the meetings, BLS, ALS, regional service, strategic initiatives, and finance, with a primary focus on increasing funding for mobile integrated healthcare. Formula recommendation formula right now is they're talking about 50-50 split, which is similar to what's going on right now. Utilization of ALS funding for new stations and remodels, and maintaining the BLS core flexibility. And that's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Gottelf. And Ms. Deming, can you provide the Planning, Parks, and Economic Development Commission reports, please?
The Planning Commission met on May 15th. At that meeting, staff introduced draft updates to the energy and sustainability element and the capital facilities element as part of the city's 2024 comprehensive plan updates. These elements will come back to the Planning Commission for a public hearing scheduled at their next meeting on June 5th. The Parks Commission met on April 22nd. At that meeting, the commission discussed purchasing additional bike racks for downtown using the small parks improvement budget, potential coordination for the 2024 Arbor Day recognition with Oaktoberfest event at Meadowbrook Park Farm on October 19th, and planning for the public park outreach activities this summer at the July 25th and August 15th farmers markets. The Park Commission will next meet on June 12th at 6 p.m., which is a special meeting time for a tour of the bicycle and pedestrian facilities and parks, focusing on potential park projects that can address gaps in the bicycle and trail network and directional signage between parks. The Economic Development Commission met on April 23rd and continues to work on projects and ideas to generate more visitors to local businesses. The commission will next meet on May 23rd to receive an update about the cycling story map to promote North Bend as a cycling destination and draw visitors downtown. In addition, the commission will review economic and demographic data to understand how to position the city to attract businesses and help local businesses grow and expand. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Deming. Does council have any regional reports to provide at this moment? Oh, excuse me, Ms. Colon. Thank you.
King County Board of Health met on May 16th at 1 o'clock via Zoom or in the King County Courthouse. First, they continued a discussion of the opioid crisis and some of the issues, one of which is being recovery for opioid addiction takes a lot longer when compared to recovery from alcohol. They're thinking 2 to 3 years compared to 1 year. The Seattle Indian Health Party, their Thunderbird Treatment Center is reopening and it has been closed since 2019. And they are working on the 6-year strategic plan update for 2024. The next meeting will be held on June 20th at 1 o'clock via Zoom. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Colon. And let's see, I think I saw Mr. Jocelyn's hand go up.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Snoqualmie Valley, the Snoqualmie Watershed Forum met this past Wednesday at 6 o'clock at Snoqualmie City Hall. The North Bend staff member Jamie Burrow was in attendance as well. She did the honor of serving on the grant review committee. One of the things that was dealt with during the meeting was assignment of or forwarding on of the cooperative watershed management grants and approving those. And a group of folks did a lot of very hard work to visit those sites and rank them and come up with recommendations that were embraced by members of the forum. We received performed some forum business, adopting a budget, addressing a recruitment of tribal youth to participate in the forum, and then received a presentation on community-based social marketing for repairing restoration. Folks with forum funds reached out to local farmers. One of the take-home messages that I received was that farmers know a lot about what they're doing and don't need encouragement about the ecological value or to be told about the ecological value of the choices they make in managing their land and riparian buffers, which, you know, it's nice to have that affirmed. But they're working hard to looking at adoption and how to encourage landowners to adopt these practices. And part of what they want to see as well is that it's beneficial, that it's cared for, that it not just go south and look bad and not be either growing crops or benefiting wildlife and serving the functions as intended, for example. So it was insightful. The next meeting will be held July 17th in Duval. It will include a tour of the past projects that have been accomplished this year. I will say I will be vacationing in the Midwest and not here, so the alternate can go. And if any of you wanted to attend, I'm sure you'd be more than welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Jocelyn. Mr. Tripolata.
Yes, the SCA PIC committee met on May 8th via Zoom. We had a brief presentation from King County Conservation District, overview of their efforts and their plans moving forward. And then we discussed at length a regional alignment plan with SCA cities for asylee and refugees. Interesting note from that was, I think we don't realize how big the problem is here in North Bend. But because a couple of representatives from Tukwila discussed how they have over 550 asylees in their town with not much support nor help. It's costing them $600,000 every 6 months to take care of these folks. And so there's a draft letter that SCA has reviewed, and then an ongoing discussion for effectively asking for engagement from the Office of Refugees and Immigrant Assistance, and also looking for regional ideas for what is the path forward for these folks. So pretty costly, pretty surprising, I think, for most people to hear that kind of numbers in such a small town like Tukwila. Next meeting is the second Tuesday of June.
Thank you, Mr. Tremolata. Did I miss anybody else? Anybody? No? Well, I just want to say thank you very much for providing such very thorough reports. Much appreciated. At this time, I'd like to move on to introductions. Item number 7, AB 24-052, public hearing and resolution adopting 6-year transportation improvement plan 2025 to 2030. Mr. Moore, would you please provide the report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. Every year is required by Washington state law. Every city in Washington must develop and adopt a 6-year transportation plan. This program lays out a plan for improving and maintaining a city's transportation system. The TIB is a planning tool to ensure the city continually has available advanced plans as a guide in carrying out a coordinated transportation plan. The law requires that each city holds an annual public hearing to adopt a 6-year TIP. The adopted TIP is then sent out to the adjacent local jurisdictions and utility districts to coordinate projects, as well as the state for incorporation into the statewide TIP. There are several benefits derived from the annual update and adoption of the TIP. Some of these include the TIP provides valuable information to city commissions, committees, citizens, developers, and businesses interested in development within the city. The TIP assists in leveraging available resources through improved timing of projects and improved coordination of city projects with those of private and other public entities. And many grant resources require that projects be adopted by the city's TIP prior to a grant application being submitted. Within the packet, we have the TIP table, a TIP map, and a TIP project narrative that everybody can take a look at. There are 2 projects within the TIP that aren't included in the TIP right now that we will include prior to final adoption in June. That first one is the pedestrian level bollard lighting on Tanner Trail from downtown to the Cedar Falls Way, North Bend Way roundabout out in front of Les Schwab. And then a second one would be a citywide intersection lighting study where we identify projects, prioritize them, and then eventually go forward with the higher projects. Within the agenda bill itself, you'll see a list of transportation projects that have been completed over the years in the first section. The second section includes active transportation projects in various levels of design. Those same projects are highlighted on the TIP table in yellow. And then some significant changes from the previous TIP. Since we completed the complete street study on North Bend Way, we've updated the costs within the TIP table for those 5 segments of North Bend Way. They increased significantly from our placeholders last year. We moved some of the current year construction projects out onto the completed list at the back of the TIP table. And then we moved project T-017, the roundabout at 468th and Middle Fork Road intersection, up the priority list at the request of the TPW committee. Since we put this out, we've had 2 public comments have been received, and I believe those have been provided to council. Those were both kind of looking at the sidewalk project on Ballarat between 8th and 12th, both kind of directed at that project. If council has any questions, I'm happy to answer. And that concludes my introduction.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Are there any clarifying questions from council? Going once, going twice. Okay, we will now move on to a public hearing. The public hearing on a resolution adopting the six-year TIP 2025 through 2030 is now open. If any members of the audience would like to comment during the public hearing, we would invite you to come forward to the podium at this time. If you have requested accommodation from the city clerk and wish to speak, please raise your hand through a virtual platform, and we'll take your comments after in-person comments. Please remember to state your name and address for the record. You have 3 minutes to speak. We don't have anybody. Okay, we're going to move on from that. Well, the public hearing will remain open till June 18th, 2024, City Council meeting. Councilmember Colon, will you please make the motion?
Motion to approve AB 24-052, a resolution adopting the 6-year Transportation Improvement Plan 2025 to 2030 as a first reading and continuing the public hearing until June 18th, 2024, City Council meeting.
Second.
Thank you. Motion made by Ms. Colon and seconded by Mr. Jocelyn. Would you like to speak to your motion, Ms. Colon?
I think these are all really worthy projects and I want to do all of them and more.
You're welcome. Mr. Jocelyn, would you like to make a comment?
It's ambitious, it's forward-looking, it provides the basis, as we saw at the last meeting, for the receipt of grant funds and moving things forward, and we're lucky to have folks that are good at what they do. Yep, I'm nothing but supportive.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Jocelyn. Any other comments from council? No? Okay, the motion before us is to approve AB 24-052, a resolution adopting the 6-year Transportation Improvement Plan 2025 through 2020 or 2030, excuse me, as a first reading and continuing the public hearing until June 18th, 2024 City Council meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to item 8. AB 24-053, motion authorizing contract with Northwest Railway Museum for Railway Crossings Project. Mr. Moore, again, will you provide staff report?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. In September of 2023, Puget Sound Regional Council awarded the city a grant in the amount of $2.7 million for this railroad crossing project within the city. The project locations, there's a map within the packet there showing the project locations, but the project locations are the railroad crossing on North Bend Way on the west end of town, right at city limits. The railroad crossing on Northwest 8th Street, kind of on the west entrance to Nintendo. The railroad crossing on Bendigo, just south of North Bend Way. And then relocating and removing tracks along McClellan, basically from Bendigo east to where it comes out to North Bend Way there. As it's a federally funded project and the Northwest Railway Museum's the sole user of this railroad track, and this is kind of out of our wheelhouse on the design side of things. This contract is an agreement with them to do the design work for us. They would bill us for that design work. The city would pay them for the work up to $89,000. And then the city would be reimbursed with this $2.7 million federal grant. So there's no funds coming from the city for this project. The plan tentatively is to have this constructed in next year in 2025. There is a slight possibility it could happen this fall if everything falls into place cleanly, but most likely in 2025. One other thing I just want to note is the railroad track relocation and movement there along McClellan is all kind of in coordination with the McClellan Alley Improvements Project. Basically just shifting those tracks to the south to make more room for that angle parking and everything we came up with that master plan up there. So we brought this contract to TPW back in April, and they recommended approval, and staff recommends approval as well. And I'm happy to answer any questions from council.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Any clarifying questions from council? Ms. Rusting.
Yeah, thank you for the summary. Just a question. I understand that the Railway Museum will take lead on the design. Does the city of North Bend, does your team have an opportunity to also do a review and put in input on it?
Yeah, they'll have design submittals at 30%, 60 and 90 submittals. So 3 separate submittals that we'll get a chance to look at it and kind of make sure from a transportation standpoint, it's matching our standards roadway wise. The railroad crossing stuff is, like I said, kind of more in their wheelhouse, so we won't look at that as close, but yes, we will have 3 chances to look at the plans.
And if hypothetically there's something that increases the cost, does your team have an opportunity to also weigh in on that?
Absolutely. I mean, any coordination or anything we look at comment wise, that's going to increase the cost will be a discussion item that we have to go back to with the Northwest, the train museum, but we do have quite a bit of federal funds on this project, so I'm pretty confident we should be able to do all this work with what we have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Colon. Any other clarifying questions? Ms. Colon?
How many parking stalls will go in with the angled parking once the tracks are removed?
That's a good question. I can come back and give you an exact number. I want to say it's in the I want to say it's in the 40 range, 40 to 50 range, something like that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Oh, sorry, Ms. Jocelyn.
Sorry. And this will, of course, be cognizant of the Starfish Roundabout, I believe it's being referred to on Northwest 8th Street.
Correct. We've already got the survey done. Basically, we're not changing grade out there with that existing crossing on Northwest 8th Street. So that'll pretty much, we'll tie that in. Our consultants are working together on that. And then for the new crossing for what would be the bypass project coming off the Starfish Roundabout, same thing. That would, consultants are all working together using the same information.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Colon. I believe, excuse me, I better backtrack to do, if any members of the audience would like to comment on this agenda, even though there's no one presently here, unfortunately. We would invite you to come forward to the podium at this time. If you have requested accommodation with the city clerk and wish to speak, please raise your hand through a virtual platform and we will take your comments after in-person comments. Please remember to state your name and address for the record, and you have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing that we have nobody, we'll continue on. Ms. Colon, will you please make the motion?
Motion to approve AB 24-053, authorizing a design contract with Northwest Railway Museum for the City of North Bend Railway Crossing Project in an amount not to exceed $89,000.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Ms. Rustick, jumping in there. Motion by Ms. Colon and seconded by Ms. Rustick. And Ms. Colon, would you like to comment on your motion?
I think it's a great project. I think it will improve safety of people going down North Bend Way. And I like the idea of more parking for our businesses. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rustick, would you like to make a comment?
Just to add to what Councilmember Colon said, I also think that having a partnership with the Railway Museum or having them lead it is a great thing. They've certainly got a lot of knowledge there. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rustick. Anybody else from council wish to comment? All right, the motion before us is to approve AB 24-053, authorizing a design contract with Northwest Railway Museum for the City of North Bend Railway Crossing Project in the amount not to exceed $89,000. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now we're going to move on to mayor, council, and administrative concerns and initiatives. Let's start with Mr. Elwood, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Don't really have a whole heck of a lot to, not really concerned actually in a very pleasant state, which is good. So I did want to make a call out because I don't think I'll have the opportunity to do it before the show opens, but Valley Center Stage is putting on a production of Man of La Mancha. It's I guess I would call it a classical musical. And the set looks amazing. I'm not affiliated with this production, but I know they've been working really hard. So if you're looking for some live performance theater, please check out Valley Center Stage at the Grange, and also keep an eye out on the Grange website because they have open mic nights and other cool things that they're doing for our community. So check them out as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I know who's going next. Jump on in there.
You.
Yes, I do.
My name is Susan Torges.
Yes.
I'm going next.
No, I'm just setting her up.
Yeah, sorry, we're having Heather go next.
We're all awake. Go. Thank you, Susan.
Well, First of all, Mount Si Senior Center, they lost some federal funding. So if anybody's interested in providing some donations to the senior center, they'd be happy to receive them. They've had to cut back on their meals because of the lack of funding. So I think they were serving 50 people for lunch and now they're down to 30 for lunch. So that's kind of a bummer. But I also would like to talk about Memorial Day weekend coming up. You know, we're having our barbecues. Hopefully it'll be sunny. To think about the people that served for us. I know there's a ton of people in the cemetery that have served in World War I and World War II. So I know probably everybody's got someone in their family that serves. And so we should think about them this weekend. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much. And Ms. Coleman.
I have nothing interesting to say. I've not been enjoying this torrential rainstorm we're having. So drive careful and clean out your storm drainage ditches if you need to. Clean out your gutters and take care.
Thank you very much. Mr. Tremolata.
A couple items. June 2nd will be Ignite Dance Studios end of the year recital, which I am heavily involved with now. But you can buy a ticket and check it out. It's amazing. From 6 to 18-year-olds putting on the final show of the year. Also, you can mark your calendar the weekend starting Saturday, June 22nd, or a month from today. We, North Bend, will be hosting the District 9 Little League 10-year-old All-Star Tournament over at Torgerson Park. So that will be pretty cool. Bunch of teams from all over King County. We'll have a bunch of Little Leaguers here for probably 5 full days running around. So check it out. It's a lot of fun over there. And yeah, that's what I got.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gottel.
Thank you. Nice that you brought up Memorial Day and yes, think about that. But my normal is, you know, with the rain, watch where you're driving. As Memorial comes and we start seeing everybody out at the parks, please watch where you're driving and be careful out there and have a great Memorial weekend.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rustick.
So ironically, mine relates to when the weather is actually nice, which it has been pretty nice. So I've received a number of emails and phone calls regarding construction and animal noise and animals specifically to roosters. So I just wanted to share that I was informed by the city staff that the city of North Bend actually doesn't have an ordinance that specifically prohibits roosters. But they have adopted the ordinance, the King County ordinance, as it pertains to animal care and control. And that means that if there's noise that's frequently repetitive and intermittently continuous sound made by any animal, except that such sounds made in animal shelters or in community kennels, duly licensed shall be exempt. If you are located inside an HOA community, there might be rules and regulations which are more stringent. But if you have a situation which needs to be addressed outside of the criteria, then please send a time-stamped picture submitting complaints to building@northbendwa.gov. And that same email address, building@northbendwa.gov, also applies to complaints about construction site, construction noise. And the hours of operation for those are Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. So I just wanted to share that. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Joslin.
Let's see, I wanted to acknowledge the fine work done by city staff along Orchard Drive. The sidewalk looks spectacular. The new trees are in. It was unfortunate we had to take out the ones that were planted just 10 years ago there, but it looks like a new sidewalk and it was due to a lot of diligent hard work. And I want to acknowledge that just in time for the food trucks that are now back on Thursdays in the park. So if you need dinner tomorrow, consider stopping by the park. There you go. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Is it Wednesdays or Thursdays?
Sorry, Thursdays.
Just pushing the weekend.
I'm hoping it's, I'm waiting for the sun to come out, which I think is maybe tomorrow.
Would you care to add?
Well, just a positive report on Mark. He was in today for about 4.5 hours and he Looked like he'd lost a lot of weight, so I asked him if he'd take some of mine, but he said no. So I bought him a lunch and he spent a little bit of time. He's looking good. He's getting a lot of work done. It was really nice to see him back in. Also tomorrow night, and I'm not gonna steal your thunder because you always have so much, Mayor, but we do have
Go right ahead.
SVGA tomorrow night and we're hosting it. And the tribe is going to give us a presentation on coexisting with wildlife, which I'd like to see because my next door neighbor's dog treed a bear yesterday. So I guess I need a little update on that because when we went outside, that guy got out of there quick. We couldn't find him. But there are a lot of bear sightings I've seen on both next door and also from other folks. So, you know, be aware. This is the season where they come out and act crazy. So.
Good point. I'm not sure how to follow that, but good points made. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Miller. The city is seeking youth applicants between the ages of 16 and 18 for vacancy on Parks Commission applicants. Application packets and information regarding the position are also available on the city website. The deadline for submittal is June 14th. On Friday, May 24th, Tenant Trailhead Park will close to the public as crews work to install a permanent restroom. Both the parking area and the trail system will be closed from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. And of course, city offices will be closed on Monday, May 27th in observance of Memorial Day. I will be here for the ceremony that we will be holding outside of the this beautiful building of ours, and be pleased to see members of our community here as well. Council, this July 2nd council meeting will be canceled. And everybody, please have a safe Memorial Weekend, of course. Thank you to our hardworking staff. I love you all. You're amazing. And thank you for Mark Rigos coming back to work. It was great to see him, and it will be always great to see him. So everybody have a safe and wonderful weekend ahead. And I'm going to call for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Mr. Gupta. Oh, okay. Are we going for a record then?
There you go.
And I'm sorry, was that Brendan? Motion by Brendan, seconded by Brendan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.